everything that you do every day to support our students, we so greatly appreciate. And I know that this past year has been very, very unsettling for all of us. So who would have thought a year ago when we did this orientation or welcome back that we would be in the place that we are now? But we are, and I think that this transition between March and now means that in March, we were in crisis mode. Everybody just trying to figure out what this looked like, agencies closing. You're not sure about how you were going to service the participants in your agencies. We weren't sure about what that student interface was going to look like. But now we're in transition to this new normal. And this new normal is going to be with us for at least this academic year. And we've been working really hard over the summer to create a situation that both supports you in the field as well as the students. And so I want to just give you a brief overview, but also to let you know that we are here to support you because you are supporting the students. And Anwar, along with Takesha and Sarah and Angela in the field office, have been working so hard all summer to make sure that you know that we are there to support you. So we have been preparing for whatever contingency happens. We know that we are at this place in August 2020, but where we are in November 2020 may look very different. We know that for all of us, well, for all of us at Wayne State supporting the students, it's our job to ensure that students get the number of hours that they need so that they can graduate, that they can go on to licensure. We know that your primary responsibility is the clients that you serve or the agency goals that you have. So we're trying to make that transition easier. So one of the things that we've done is Chantalea Johns, who this year went from being the BSW advisor to our Director of Continuing Education. She will be working with faculty and the field office to create modules. And these modules will be faculty-driven, kind of continuing education modules that either that you can participate in and that the students can participate in, that will provide additional expertise aside from their classroom, but that will benefit them in their settings and working with the clients. One of the first things that we thought everyone needs is telepractice. And while we're all communicating in different ways, how do you engage a client through telepractice? How do you continue a relationship with clients? And so we're in the process of doing modules that would be a step one, engagement using virtual technologies, and a step two, a continuing clinical relationship with someone using virtual technologies. So it's things that may have been touched upon in our curriculum, but haven't been fully fleshed out to the skill level that students need right now. So those kinds of modules will be available to both the students and to you. And Chantalea is, I think at last count, there were 22 different modules in process. I don't know, Anwar or Takesha, if you've got an updated number.
Yes, there is.
Hey, there's Chantalea. All right, so 22 that are currently in progress. The other thing that we've done is through the CARES Act funding, we have been investigating simulation software. And the simulation software that we haven't fully embraced, but that my colleagues in nursing and the med school have utilized, is built around artificial intelligence. And so that the simulation has basically the student acting as the clinician And there's an avatar in this different scenario. So you could have a hospital-based scenario, a substance abuse treatment scenario, where they are engaging with a client avatar, and their responses will then generate different responses from the client, so that it is very interactive and it isn't kind of a pat, like this is what you say, this is what the client says, but the client is going to respond to whatever that student clinician says to that client. So that we're working on getting software licenses for each one of our students in field that will allow them some practice experience that may not be the face-to-face or even virtual technologies that you all are engaging in, as a way to support those hours if for some reason the agency shuts down or that their hours get truncated in some fashion. So that we are expecting that students have regular and routine connections with you. Whether they are on site or virtual is something that I think between the field office, your agency, and the student we're working out on an individual basis. But I think that between the platform that you're offering and the support that you're offering at the agency, and that context of what your agency is involved in and how you're involved in engaging with clients, will also drive a student's learning outcomes. So that the modules and the simulation are the added supports that we're offering from the field office that will be adjuncts to what you're doing. I think that this will result in many more individualized plans for students than we've had in the past. I think that, you know, we all have gotten into kind of a routine of what that engagement looks like in the field and what students will be responsible for doing. This year, much of that will change, and it will be driven by the activities within the agency, as well as how that might need to be supplemented by the field office. So I know that there will be more discussion about this going forward today, but if there are any particular questions or concerns that you have, I can open it up, or Anwar, or if you tell me that we should stop now, we can stop now. But do you want me to open it up for questions at this point, or do you want to go?
Sure. Let me just say that you jumped right in, and so I want to make sure everyone knows, those folks that haven't met you, that you are, this is Cheryl Kubiak, who is our Dean and Professor here at Wayne State School of Social Work. And I'll just take 1 minute to say that she's the founding director of the Center for Behavioral Health and Justice. And that prior to her position here as Dean, she was a professor in the College of Social Sciences in the School of Social Work at Michigan State University, and a research associate at the Institute for Research on Women and Gender and the Substance Abuse Research Center, both at University of Michigan. She, and I'll just again add this, that she obtained her graduate degrees from U of M, MSW, and the PhD in Psych, and her BA in Social Work with a minor in Business from Madonna University. She has been with Wayne how many years now, Dean Kubiak? Are you at?
This iteration too, I was at Wayne 4 years as an assistant professor too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're very fortunate to have Dean Kubiak here, and some of you know her, but some of you may not. So I just wanted to take time to do that. And I will add here to really thank her for the support she's offered and provided to the field office and our admissions office. She's really been a champion of making sure that our students have what they need, and a champion for you to really provide the best possible opportunities for our students. So I'll say that and then open it up. We're happy to take questions if folks have. I know that you're not able to stay for the whole time, so if there are some questions, we can take a few minutes for folks to ask those and for you to respond.
I apologize, Anwar.
No,
all,
no.
all that schooling and no good home training.
I think folks can know that you jump from meeting to meeting. I totally appreciate that.
Yeah, this is my fourth one and probably my fourth cup of coffee this morning. So my apologies for just jumping in, but I really am happy to have a conversation. And if there are any things that you would like to ask me personally, please put them in the chat. But also know that my email is spk, my initials, at wayne.edu, and you can contact me at any time. I think that the other thing that we've done this summer is we've tried to do some unique collaborations with different organizations or new field placements. Many of the existing field placements that we've had through the years transitioned this year because they too were in a precarious position of knowing how to go forward at this moment. And so during the summer, we explored a lot of options for social work students to be in placements that would be non-traditional. Many of you may know about the holistic defense that we've put together where we're training law and social work students. And so we developed partnerships with Neighborhood Defense Services and the Federal Defender's Office and the Detroit Justice Center of having social work students placed in those organizations with law students. So this idea of defense where you have a social worker and an attorney present so that at the earliest interactions with the court, you could possibly defer someone to treatment is kind of the goal around this holistic defense and all of the indigent defense offices. There's 25 new indigent defense offices that will be popping up around the state. This is the model that they will be using. And so it's a different career path for social workers. And I'm very happy that Dean Biersbach from the law school and the School of Social Work were able to partner in kind of unique collaboration. But also kind of thinking more broadly, working with Detroit Public Schools over the summer to think about, rather than just the traditional school social worker role, are there other roles for social workers within the school at this moment where students are also struggling with being home, the anxiety that comes from COVID, as well as this new virtual world. So we've been trying to think about this moment in time and what it means for social workers and where we need to be present, that we really want to be a community engaged school. There's so many needs, and that I believe that as we move forward, the economic devastation that I think our community will see is really something where I believe that social workers have to be on the forefront. And I know that all of you are in that space, and we just want to partner with you as effectively as possible to the same end, to the same goals. So I really do appreciate all that you are doing, because I know that your roles and your jobs have become much more stressful in this time of COVID. But I also think that there's opportunities for innovation. In talking with many of you over the summer, I've heard that the no-show rates are down and that clients are engaging more because they don't have to worry about how are they going to get to someplace. So there's some opportunities here to engage in different ways. So I'm excited about how does social work take advantage of this space that we haven't been before and really use those opportunities to engage and assist people who are struggling at this moment.
Thank you so much, Cheryl. Unless folks have any other questions, you can feel free to type them into the chat, or if someone has a question and they want to unmute and ask the question, feel free as Dean Kubiak has a few minutes before she has to take off to the next meeting.
Good morning. This is Franchise Cooper, School Social Work Supervisor with Detroit Public Schools Community District. Welcome, and how's everybody doing? My question to you, Dean Kubiak, is as we met over the summer, I concur with what you're saying. This is an excellent opportunity. You know, this is a pivotal moment for school social work, you know, that the COVID situation has caused. So I'm excited because every time change is an opportunity for growth and to partner with Wayne State. And, it's just an opportunity I'm looking forward to. I'm excited. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
Well, thank you. And I really do want to explore, you know, with different thought partners about how do we show up? How do we change fields so that it's more responsive? And I think that that's the reason for some of these modules is that all of you know that our curriculum is under revision and that we'll be voting as a faculty on those changes in a few weeks. But throughout this process, we've been saying to you, what do you need more of? What do you need less of? How do we create a student of social work for the 2020s? And we've gotten a lot of great input, but then all of a sudden March, the game shifted. And I think we're still looking for that input from you. How do we become more effective at this moment going forward? Because while this has changed during COVID, I think we're going to see these changes go on. I'll be surprised if I can get many of my staff back to the building ever. I'll be surprised because everybody's found that they can be fairly effective at home, and we've been very successful in doing that. And I know you're also experiencing those changes. So how does social work change and how do we respond? I think is something we're all finding out, but I look forward to the dialogue with you because in the end, what we want to do is produce the students that are the best and the brightest and the most sensitive to those needs in the community. So I look forward to your partnership. I see Christy has a hand up. I may not see everyone.
Yeah. So Dean Kubiak, I just wanted to kind of, so I work in the School of Social Work with Dean Kubiak and some of these amazing field people. And I think it's a great opportunity as social workers to kind of see how we can be more flexible in the work that we do and really kind of understand where our students are coming from in this kind of tumultuous time because we're working from home. I'm trying to explain to students that I'm working with, there's something wrong with the software that transfers my voicemail to, so please just email me because I can't get your phone calls. And I think it's been a great learning experience to share with them because we're experiencing the same challenges, the same unknowns. We don't know if we're going back to the building before the end of the fall semester. We don't know what that's going to look like come January. And so I think being open and honest with our students about the challenges we're having in our own agencies, whether it's the school or not, is really powerful for them because they know that okay, this is social work as a whole field is going through this right now and we're really working together.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thanks, Christy. I do want to stress that as my final point is that we are walking with you on this journey. And I promise that there will be missteps along the way because we're all fallible and we have no idea what the future holds. So it's difficult to plan. But we will be here and we want to walk with you and make this the most successful student experience that we can. So thank you very much for allowing me to talk with you this morning, and thank you all for what you do for Wayne State and for our students. Take care.
Thank you so much.
Stay safe. All right. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Thank you. Before I'd like to introduce our next speaker, Dr. Deborah Patterson. Before I give her, say a little bit about her, I'll say that I had some housekeeping events, but I think I'm going to have Dr. Patterson do her presentation. I know she has another meeting, and then we'll go back and do some housekeeping. And just, I want to make sure that we introduce all of the field staff and they have a chance to say hello. Some of you have spoken to them and now can see their faces. So Dr. Deborah Patterson came to Wayne State University in 2008. After completing her doctoral degree in community psychology. She completed her MSW in 1996 at Wayne State University, and I was her academic advisor, actually. So it's
Good worker.
um, uh, she subsequently worked as a program director at a domestic and sexual violence agency. Dr. Patterson is currently an associate professor and serves as our school's associate dean of academic and faculty affairs. Her research examines sexual assault victims, survivors, barriers to the experiences with help seeking. So I'm very pleased. She's a wonderful partner for me to work with our students and our faculty. And I just thank her for being here. And so I'll turn it over to Dr. Patterson, who wants to address you with some information about our program.
Thanks, Anwar. How's everyone doing? Thumbs up, medium, down, just like reaction. So Anwar asked me to talk about what does fall look like for our students and with their courses. And of course, she's like, have, 5-10 minutes. And I'm like, why not like do a PowerPoint on that? Because everyone loves PowerPoint. So I make sure that my skills are not challenged here. I'm going to share my screen. Okay, hopefully you can see that.
Looks good.
So this is my agenda for 5 minutes because, why not have an agenda too? And I'm going to talk about two things. One is the fall semester plan for courses and then faculty preparation around teaching. So the university, like most primary, secondary, and higher education institutions, have really thought about like what are our guiding principles on making determinations for what the fall is going to look like. And so you may or may not know, our president is an epidemiologist. And so our first and foremost principles focus on safety and health of our staff, our students, our faculty. And those have been the primary principle that drives a lot of the decisions that have been made. We also focused a lot of our decisions around the academic mission, that we provide quality education. We continue to do research because we are a Research One institution, and that we hold students, faculty, staff harmless to the extent possible within the budget constraints. We, like many universities, are facing significant budget cuts because of COVID, and that we incorporate learning from the shutdown, because there's lots of things that happen, probably like your agencies, where we learned a lot of things about the process and also about our school and students. So we started with what are the barriers to returning to campus. And first, we have many students and faculty and staff who are medically vulnerable. The average age of faculty at Wayne State University is 58, to give you a sense. And the other thing is, like many primary, secondary, and higher institutions, which is how many classes really do we have that can really adequately social distance? And so we did analysis across the entire university and found out that with the 6 feet apart, we only have on average classrooms that can accommodate about 13 students. Our class size is about 25 to 30. And there's only 16 rooms on the entire campus that can accommodate our traditional class size. So this became a barrier. So originally I had given faculty choice of asynchronous, synchronous, or on campus, but recently the president has had concerns about the spike of COVID. So everybody is teaching online for the fall. And so I want to give you a bit of a breakdown of what that looks like. So asynchronous is that self-paced, students can work on their own. They usually get recordings from faculty. And synchronous is live sessions. So live classroom sessions, it could be the entire classroom's time or partially of that classroom time. So of the 116 sections of courses taught by 76 instructors, 45% are scheduled as asynchronous and 55% as synchronous. And I will tell you that our faculty have been extremely hard at work this summer. So we tend to think about what happened in the winter is emergency remote learning. I think when I see my nephew had to make a choice about what he wants to do for school. So I've been entrenched in all these Facebook debates on his school district website. And what I think people don't understand is what happened in the winter is emergency remote learning. Online learning is planful, and you have course designs and such. So it will look different for our students for fall. So in order to prepare faculty, we have an Office on Teaching and Learning who provided weekly webinars. I don't count them, but I would say there's probably at least 10 a week. They also did design sprints. I like to call it boot camp because it's very intensive online training. And then some of you might know Dr. Faye Keys. She also did a lot of one-on-one support with faculty to help them. So they've been really immersed in learning, online learning. Some of you may know Karen Weiner. Actually, many of you I probably do. She told me she has taken at least 40 trainings over the summer, and that was about a month ago, just to give you a sense of like how immersed some of our faculty are. We also had to look at student support during this time too. And so students can take Learn Anywhere modules, which helps them also train in how to be good students in online learning. Our advisors, and our writing coaches are available virtually for our students as well. And honestly, they've been available virtually for years for our students because a lot of our students work full-time or part-time, hopefully. They work, and so they aren't always on our campus like, say, a residential-based university like U of M or MSU. So we've always tried to make our services more accessible for students, regardless of the barriers they have in life. And then our Dean of Student Office, DOSO, also has been trying to make Chromebooks and hotspots available for our students with financial needs, because one of the things we did learn is we do have some students who have great financial need, and they rely on our campus libraries. And so when that shut down for them, they were writing their papers on their phones. And so we wanted to make sure that those students had access to Chromebooks. Our library will be open, and most of our the campus services will be open in some capacity for fall for students. So I don't know that the need will be as high. So hopefully that gives you a good sense of what the fall will look like for our faculty, for our students. And I just want to end with thanking you for investing in social work students. I was a field instructor too, and I can tell you that it's such an important role in our world, not just when they're students, but the first couple of years when they leave. They need us to guide them, to help shape them into the social workers that we want them to be when they take care of us, when we need them, when we get older, right? So I really want to thank you for investing. It's such an important role that you have. And on the worst of days, I want you to remember that your role is incredibly important to not just the students, but our field, and really trying to move it forward and advance it. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Deborah. Appreciate your time and all the work you've been engaged in with our faculty over the summer. And I know you will be for the fall too, as we get started and dealing with the anxiety that students tend to have and some that faculty and staff tend to have. So appreciate it. All right, let me step back a little bit and just do some housekeeping and welcome of our staff before I have Chantelia Johns to do her presentation next. So I again offer welcome and my deep and personal thanks to all of you for being here and for your role as field instructors. As we've all said, we would not be able to do this without you, and certainly appreciate all of the work and effort that you put into your role as field instructors. allowing us to harass you when we call you to take students, and of course the great work that you do with students. So this is going to be we're taping this session, and we will create we'll put together all of the material that is presented and put that together, and we'll make it available for other field instructors who are not able to join us today. So just FYI for that. I'll introduce Diane in a second, but she will be reaching out to you just as she did with sending you the link for today's session, and she'll be sending out information about this session in terms of having you do an evaluation, and then later she's going to send you the CE certificate for those of you that are here attending for that. So we're going to go for another 2 hours or so. We're going to be breaking into groups, and Sarah Doyle, whom I'll also introduce in a second, will coordinate that part of the session. And it's really, we wanting to give you opportunities to meet with one another, and then to share information with one another, and then with us, so that we can share that back with all of you and the other field instructors who were not able to join us today. But so before I do that, let me introduce our staff, and I'll start with Diane Kennedy, because many of you know Diane either by name, by voice, or by face if you've met with her. She is the secretary for the Office of Field Education, and really keeps us all in line and makes sure that all of the information gets out. I'm going to give her an opportunity to say hello and to address you, and just to give a few reminders. Diane?
Hello, everyone. Good to see a lot of these faces. I've talked to many of you through the last 6 years that I have worked here, but I have not seen your faces, so this is sort of fun. I think the most important thing to remember about me is that I am the expert for our IPT program. And if many of you run into problems, I'm the one you should call. I'll let you know that if you haven't worked with our program before, if when students sign off on their process recordings, that locks it. And then, so if you need them to change something, you can have me open the form back up again. The same thing with your evaluations. If there needs to be a change, I can unlock the form for you. Also, a reminder right now, we have probably like 200 students that have not been accepted yet. If you have interviewed a student and have not submitted the interview decision form, please do that so this week. We really need to know which students have been accepted and if we need to find another placement for them. But it's good to see all of you. If you ever have any questions about our office or who you need to contact, just call the field number or field_education@wayne.edu, and I'll be glad to help you.
Thanks, Diane. And the person who works closely with Diane is our student assistant, Grace Kayat. And I think Grace is here. She wants to say hello.
I am. Hello, it's nice to see everyone. I've just been overseeing the email with Diane while I'm at home too. So sometimes I'll be reaching out to some of you guys. So it's nice to see everyone now.
Right. Thanks very much, Grace. Grace is a student at Wayne State and works really hard. So we're happy to have her on as a student assistant in our office. So I'll introduce Sarah Doyle next. Sarah Doyle is new to our office, but not new to Wayne State. She was an academic advisor for MSW students for 8 years, and recently came on board as academic services officer for the School of Social Work Office of Field Education. And so now her responsibilities focus on field education, but it's great to have someone who is an academic advisor now in this role, because she then really understands where students are coming from and understands what they bring to the table, and the issues that might come up related to their plan of work and their curriculum as they start field placement. So we're really pleased to have her as part of the team in the Office of Field Education, and I will have her say a few words.
Thank you, Anwar. Good morning, everyone. I'm looking forward to working with all of you. I'm also facilitating the new field instructor seminar. So I will also be dropping the dates and the RSVP for that in the chat as well. It was also emailed to you with the initial invite. So looking forward to seeing many of you again, hopefully on Wednesday for our first session. Thanks.
Thanks, Sarah. And I see Christy Andreski Price is on the call. She's our placement assistant. Some of you know her and you heard her. If you want to say hello, Christy, anything else?
Not really. I'm Christy Price. I work with primarily students who are interested in medical and hospital placements. And I also work with the BWET program.
Thank you, thank you. Is Eric, I don't know if Eric's on the line.
I don't think Eric's here this morning. I haven't
Eric
seen it.
Schimmel is another placement assistant, as well as Angela Oliveira, who unfortunately was not able to be here, but sends her regards and hellos to everyone as well. I thought I saw Takesha's name on here. Takesha, I'm going to put you on the spot, and since you're here, Takesha is our Director of Field Education, of course, and is on leave, but is due to come back, and we're looking forward to that time, and me especially, as I want to be able to have her come back in that role. But if she's here, I thought she might want to say hello.
I am. So good morning, everyone. Just wanted to pop in to say thank you for not only what the work you will be doing this upcoming academic year, but the work you put in for this past academic year. I know that we were learning on the go, and our field instructors and our faculty field liaisons and our task supervisors really showed students what it means to be social workers and to be able to adapt and to get work done, because this was definitely something that none of us had experienced before. But thank you all for the work that you did this past academic year, the work you're putting in for this upcoming academic year. We appreciate you, and we just really are happy that so many of you are still working with us to make sure that we're providing great learning opportunities for students. And in my, not so shameful way, if you have openings, let us know. We're always looking, like Diane said, we have some students that we still need to confirm, but if you still have students that, openings rather for students, please let us know. We're happy to help develop new internship partnerships or new opportunities for students. So thank you all for joining us, and we look forward to getting started with a great academic year.
Thank you so much, Keisha. I know some of our liaisons are on the call. I see Don Healy, and I just want to give a nod out to some of our faculty field liaisons who will be assigning to students, and so they'll be reaching out to you once the semester starts. And of course, they're available for you to reach out to with questions or concerns as well. So keep that in mind. I haven't completed, we've started making assignments of liaisons, but we by no means are completed. We'll be doing those the next month and hopefully have those in place before, by the time classes start. All right, I'm going to go back to our agenda. Our next presenter is Chantelia Johns, and Dean Kubiak started introducing her. Some of you may be familiar with Chantelia. She served as our academic services officer and advisor for our BSW program for program students for about 8 years or so, if I'm remembering correctly. So currently, and I will share that Dr. Chantelia Johns just recently defended her dissertation, and now we happily refer to her as Dr. Chantelia Johns, who is our Director of Continuing and Interprofessional Education, and she's also a lecturer in the School of Social Work. She leads the development and administration of continuing education credits for social workers and allied health professionals. She's also a great promoter of interprofessional education. She's involved in programs that support social work students learning with other disciplines on campus. And then, of course, through her work as an academic advisor, has really supported students to use and reach out to find resources to help them be successful as they navigate the BSW program. And so we're really looking forward to partnering with her in her role as director of continuing education, and fortunate that she partnered with the Office of Field Education to support students and you during this challenging time that we're having. And so I'm going to ask her to go next and share with you in more detail some of the plans that we've been working on this summer and how these will help you in your role as field instructors. So I'll turn it over to Chantalia Johns.
Thank you so much, Anwar. And I will be sharing my screen to go over some exciting things we have planned to support students as they are placed at your field placement site. So you spoke and we listened. We reviewed the survey that you all completed for us that talked about your availability as well as the resources that you needed to support students at your site. So from the results of the survey, we created 2 different types of learning activities to support students while they're placed in field education. The dean talks about them, but I'm going to go over them in more detail. One is learning modules, and then the second is we're in the process of purchasing simulation software where students will be able to engage in activities, working or simulations that show clients, and they get real-time feedback on what they're doing. And it's really exciting because this is the first for Wayne State School of Social Work to incorporate simulations into our learning activities. So for our modules are created, are in the process of being created by faculty within the School of Social Work. Each module is based on social work competencies, and we're really looking at developing activities for students that looks at how they would behave or the outcomes that are needed to be the best social worker that they can be. So the modules will have videos for students to look at activities or products that will benefit their growth as a social worker, but we're also looking for our students to develop or produce activities or produce a product that can benefit your agency. And I'm going to show you what that looks like in just a moment. So we're building out our modules in 2 phases. As the dean mentioned, we have between 22, but I think we're going to be up to 25 modules that will be available to students while they're in field. For our phase 1, we'll have about 13 modules that will be created by the end of September, and students will be able to engage in those while they're placed in field. And then by the end of October, we look to have an additional 15 modules that will be available to students. So our simulation software, very excited about what this can offer students, because the simulation software that we're looking at, again, gives students real feedback, allows them to make decisions based on what the avatar is presenting to them, and then they can track their progress. So although we know we can never replace students being actually at a field placement site, we think this will be a great addition to what they will be learning out in the field. So I want to show you the 2 examples that I've been presenting to you today. So I'm going to stop sharing my presentation and move over to Canvas, which is where our, which is Wayne State's learning management system that is used across the campus, but we're also using it for our learning modules for field education. So one moment while I stop here and show the other screen.
While you're doing that, Chantilly, someone asked if we're going to be sharing this. And just a reminder to everyone, we are videotaping, video recording this session, and we'll make it available for folks. And we'll also share the PowerPoints that were presented by our colleagues and other material. Someone asked if any of the modules were macro focused. And yes, we're looking at both micro and macro focused content.
Yeah, thank you for all the questions. That means you're excited, just as excited or at least curious about these learning activities as we are. So here's the first one. Here's the simulation software that we're really in the final stages of purchasing. And actually, I'll stop talking and let them show you, let the actors in this show you a little bit how this works. Okay.
Fine, I guess. Just tired, you know.
How's the morning sickness?
No more puking.
Well, that's an improvement. And how's Oliver? Last time you said you wanted to read with him more, 3 times a week, right?
Yeah, I mean, I tried it, but he was awful. It was awful. I don't think he's ready for reading.
So as you can see here, and where I can see you on my screen, is the sound good? Thumbs up. Okay. So as you can see here, this simulation opens up with the next, where a social worker is working in the home with a client who is looking for support to provide to her child. And so as a student, we really, the student guides the conversation. And as I mentioned, they're given real-time feedback. So let me show you an example. So a student can decide to get more information from the client, empathize with the client, or encourage the client. So I'm going to put, I want more information. We know as social workers, we're always assessing the situation. So let's see what happens when I pick to get more information.
Oh, what happened?
You know, I got home from work and my grand's been watching him all day and she's got him in front of the TV again. So I was like, come on, Ollie, let's read. And I shut off the TV and he threw a fit.
That must have been frustrating.
I was so mad. I mean, you said a 2.5-year-old can sit and listen to a story. Why can't he?
So here at the bottom of the simulations, there's another avatar that provides me or will provide the student with feedback. So it says here, good, Christina is being honest about how she feels. Try to keep this rapport so she'll continue to open up to you. So those are type of feedback that as the student progresses, as they decide what they want to say, they'll get feedback throughout the process. And also there's a bar here that will continue to go up as the student makes good decisions or makes good decisions on what to say to the client. So that's a snapshot of the module of the simulations that we are, again, in the final stages of purchasing for students that will allow them to engage in this type of work as they are placed at your agency. Now I'll move to what the learning modules will look like. So as I mentioned, and as you may know, this is the management service. So we are in the learning modules where students will log in and engage in content based on the practice areas. And so because we're in the still in the development process, I can't show you all the modules, but I can show you one that is really close to being complete. And this one is developed by Brandy Banks, who I'm not sure is on this call, but she is serving as a field instructor this year. But in addition to her role as a field instructor, she's actually Wayne State's Title IX coordinator. And so we thought that students having an understanding of Title IX would be a good use of their time, as well as provide them with useful information once they get out into the field. So the modules are really broken up. Well, this particular module is broken into 5 different steps, some ranging from something that they would complete. And in this case, this is a training that talks about sexual assault and gives students training on how to respond. And that's actually, it's a training that is required for Wayne State students. And we have it here in this module. And then we, of course, have instructions for students to complete it. Brandy's also, for our step 2, is doing a voiceover PowerPoint where she'll talk about Title IX, she'll talk about sexual assault, and she'll talk about the rights that are available to our students. Moving from there, we have an article that students can read that looks at the prevalence of sexual harassment at field placement sites. This is just to give students, again, an idea of their rights and how to respond should they be faced with this situation. So this particular module ends with 2 products. One, the student will reflect on the article that was presented. So they'll talk about some of the takeaways that they got from the article and how they will utilize the material as they're moving through field placement and their practice once they're out in the field. The final part of this particular learning module will allow students to develop a personal plan, again, in the event that they experience some form of sexual harassment. So this one, students will go through all of what was talked about in this module and come up with a plan that's specific to their needs. But we also want the students to look at the policies and procedures at your particular sites and how you respond to sexual harassment, and then develop that plan. So they're still engaged in looking at their field placement site, but also developing a personal plan for them once they're out in the field. So some of the other modules that are in development is a safety plan, where we're outlining how students can be safe during COVID-19, which we know is so important. So we want students to be able to think about how they will be safe, either at their field placement site, while they're on campus, or as they're engaging in their daily activities. And as the dean mentioned, we're also in the process. One of our faculty is developing a module on telehealth. We have modules that's going to look at substance use, child welfare, school social work, social entrepreneurship and social work, community development, leadership development. So our faculty, I think we have a great pool of faculty with a variety of expertise and a variety of knowledge. And they will pull that together to be able to create learning experiences for students as they are placed at your sites.
Chantilly, I might add here, these are as good as they are integrated into learning that students engage in at your sites. These are not meant to be standalone modules that students will do and just do on their own. You know, our hope is that, and I saw a question on here, will students be required to do these? Right, these were developed to supplement and to support students and field instructors. If a student identifies these modules, they're going to be done in consultation, in partnership with you as the field instructor. So we are encouraging you to have conversations with students. Some students may not need these because you're going to have enough work and hours for them to engage in at the agency. If students do engage in these modules or the simulation, they will be best done in consultation with you. They should be part of the learning plan that students create with you at the agency, because the benefit of these will be best seen if they are integrated into the work they do with your organization in its students' roles as field instructors. So I, again, would encourage you to bring these up as discussion points in your weekly supervision with students. And if students engage in these, they should be discussed during supervision and incorporated into the learning plan specifically, that students will engage in these and how they will connect them to the work they're doing at your sites.
Thank you, Anwar. And I do also want to mention that some of the product or some of the assignments that students will do will be directly, well, we're hoping it will be directly impactful either to your clients or to your agency. An example of this is one of our colleagues is creating a school social work module. And the product that the students, once they engage in all the activities, the product that the students will develop will be a resource guide for parents. And that's the model that we want our faculty to use, especially if the content lends itself. So we want to be able to offer a product to the agency as well. Another colleague is working on a mindfulness module. And what she wants students to do is to record themselves engaging in a mindful practice. And her thoughts behind that is that students will learn how to lead someone in a, and this is not my area, I think it's like a meditation process. So she wants students to practice, so then perhaps they may have opportunity at their agency to lead that meditation or that mindful practice, either to staff or to students or with clients.
Again, and I really appreciate you saying that, Chantilly, and I think it bears repeating that when we are looking at creating these, we, as Chantilly mentioned, we created them based on feedback from you. What was important for you at your agency? And then when faculty are working on these, we're asking them to be very mindful that students are doing these as part of their field. So how do they connect what they're learning in the module and in the simulation to what they're getting in the agency with you? And again, that can happen best if you purposefully and mindfully bring that to the table when you're meeting with students, and how to integrate it into what they're doing, and to help you and to help agency practices. That's our hope.
Absolutely. So really that is it for me. I think next on our agenda, Anwar, is we're opening it up for questions that attendees can ask of any of us. And I'll stop sharing my screen at this time.
Okay, I can ask the question now. This is Franchise Cooper, Detroit Public Schools Community District School Social Work Supervisor. That's an excellent module, especially when you're dealing with school social work. You know, as a school social work for the last 25 years, graduate of Wayne State University, MSW program. That's what I look for when it comes to student interns. Even though I work collaboratively and intricately with them, you know, DPS has 107 schools. There's no way I personally can work with every, student intern, but I assign them to more seasoned field instructors, and then we meet collaboratively, and they look at, after they've been in the school working with their field instructor, they take on small caseloads. Then we do group presentations when we meet with them every month after we know they're, after they get accustomed to being in the schools. So these modules would help them, understand that process in addition to working with their field instructor. And then that mindfulness, we have a gentleman who's getting certified that's a school psychologist in mindfulness, and he ran an 8-week course for free. He did introduction for my staff, and that mindfulness is excellent. I mean, especially I can put it in the chat, during the COVID-19, parents are stressed out, students are stressed out, staff, everybody, because it's something new. So that is a great idea. You guys are on the cutting edge. That's why I love Wayne State MSW program. That's why I get so excited, being from Wayne State, U of M undergrad, go blue. Got to give them some love. I'm just excited, and I look forward to working with Wayne State in any way I can add to those modules or be a help. I'm willing, because it's very important to get social workers on the right track with the right agency, with the right mentors. That's extremely important, because that can make or break a career. And I love to put people in positions, especially student interns, to succeed. So great job.
Thank you very much,
Thank
Franchette.
you, and thank you for your work too. I'm a proud DPS alumni, so I appreciate hearing your enthusiasm and also your support for our students at Wayne State.
Other questions for Dr. Johns?
I have a question, sorry. AJ, field placement supervisor for Harambe Care, also a graduate of Wayne State, MSW, Anwar was my student advisor. So I have a question about the simulations and the modules. About how much time are we thinking that this process would take throughout all the modules? Like, would this be able to, in addition to supplementing with what's already happening at the field placement, is this something that could sustain their placement experience?
I'll start and then my colleagues jump in. This is not meant to be, it's not meant to replace field placements. No, it really, I think we've been very wanting to make sure that we've clarified this is meant to supplement and to support field placement, but not to replace it. We want students, that's why we wanted students to be connected, right? Students are placed with you at your agencies as student interns. That is their field placement. You know, COVID has turned everything upside down for all of us. And so some of you had given us feedback that you were concerned about if there is an uptick and there's a rise of the virus in the fall and we have another stay-at-home order, that there was concern that you might not be able to have enough work, enough time for students to fully complete. And so this is meant to help in that way. But again, in no way is this replacing their field placement. The benefits that students have in field come from their experiences with you at your agency, the work they do with clients, with patients, the projects you engage them with at the agency. That is what they need, and that's what we are hoping they will continue to have with you. Again, this is meant to support you and to support them in that process. The hours, I will say, are going to vary. Some modules are going to be maybe 2 to 5 hours. Some might be a little bit longer. Again, it's, as you can see, they're going to be, they're designed to give students additional content, and they were designed to cover content that you all told us. As Dr. Johns mentioned at the beginning, the survey that Takesha sent out to all of you gave us feedback to encourage faculty to create modules that had content that you said was important for students to have in order for them to be successful in field and eventually to graduate and to begin professional practice. But this is a partnership, and partnerships work best when everyone is involved and engaged, and this isn't any different. So I hope that helps to clarify. Somewhat, let's see, will students be able to save the module for review and discussion with field instructors? Chantilly, I'll let you answer that.
Are we talking about the modules or the simulations? I just want to make sure. Well, I can answer from both. So for the learning modules, all of the assignments, the videos, everything will be there for students to go back and review. It can be with their field instructors. Actually, that's a wonderful idea. And then for the simulations, students can go back, like even when I clicked on the simulation and it asked me if I wanted to start over or start where I left off from a previous time that I was reviewing them. But I do want to point out that we will have, in addition to the student completing the simulation, we're going to have students create reflection activities. So that can be them actually kind of reflecting on what in this situation, what they thought worked well, what they could have done better. And I think the reflection can be something they can easily print out and they have a discussion with their field instructor about. We will create sort of a catalog so you will know the topics that are available for students, both in the learning modules as well as the simulations that we have available. So we'll create some sort of catalog that will be sent out so you will know what's available should you want to assign this to one of your students.
Yeah, obviously, we want to make sure that there's open communication, and you know, we tell students and we remind you also, students shouldn't be coming to their supervisory sessions each week expecting that you're going to have information, right? This is it's a partnership, and you know, you want to encourage students to come prepared to those supervisory sessions with an agenda. And one of those agenda can be that if they do participate in these, that they come to those supervisory sessions with questions, with feedback, with you know, sort of reflection on what they did and whether it was helpful or not. And we'll want that feedback too. At the end, we'll be thinking about a way to get feedback from both you and students about how these were designed, if they were helpful, what worked, what didn't work, so that we can be mindful for future as we think about how these will be organized to support students and you as their supervisor. Other questions? We'll take maybe a couple more before we move on to the next part of today.
And I just want to say, I'm excited. This is great. I love innovative and creative ways and forging into the 21st century to do school social work. Just like, social work, just like you were saying, the COVID situation forced us to do things, you know, online. And I think it just opened up the door for all possibilities. Like I was telling my leadership team that, you know, we don't have to be in the same physical space when we're doing IEPs and doing data search on students with suspected disabilities. We can all be on teams in various locations and still be just as more effective because we're not limited by physical boundaries anymore using, you know, online learning. So this is great. Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much. Yeah, you know, I think all of us are thinking about how this situation has impacted us and impacted the clients and patients that we work with, and things that don't work, and finding new ways of doing things that maybe opened up a door that we hadn't realized was even a possibility. You know, for us, it's really making sure that we can be more accessible perhaps to a larger group than we might have been able to have had when we were doing this face-to-face. So we're happy to continue to explore ways of being available and to work collaboratively with you to help our students so that they finish with the best available opportunities so that they can practice and be out there. So with that in mind, I mean, your role as field instructors and as supervisors is changing. Some of you will be continuing to be able to meet with students face-to-face, and some are doing a combination of face-to-face, and some of you do group and then individual, and some of you will be doing supervision and using this method. So we want to get feedback from you and what your thoughts are, and what you're anticipating might be challenges, and what you've experienced that has worked, perhaps that hasn't worked. After this session, one of our colleagues at another university created a module on how supervision has changed. So we'll send that out to you as well. But I'm going to turn over the next part of our presentation to Sarah Doyle, who will lead us in a couple of breakout sessions so that you'll have a chance to talk to your colleagues, so that you're not just listening to us. And please note that we want your feedback, and our intent is to get your feedback. We're going to ask for it in writing, and then we'll share it with the whole group. But I'm going to ask Sarah to describe what that's going to look like over the next half hour or so.
Real quick, I apologize. I just saw that there was a question in the chat. I didn't know if you guys saw that.
Oh. Is it, which one, Michaela?
It's from Denise. It says, will students be able to save the module for review and discussion with field instructors or the simulation?
Yes.
Yeah.
Appreciate that. So as Shantalia mentioned earlier, students will be able to access those through Canvas, and they'll be able to log on to the simulation. So if they were working with a field instructor, they'll be able to pull that up and discuss those. Thank you. Sarah?
Thanks, Anwar. So shortly, you will be assigned to a breakout session via Zoom, right? So Zoom is going to put you into different breakout sessions with about 6 of your colleagues here. Please use the worksheets that were sent to you via the email invite, and I also put them into the chat. If you'd like, if you're looking for them, download them now, because once we go into the breakout sessions, they won't be in the chat anymore. So, but go ahead and download those. And we're asking if someone in your breakout room, so soon as you join the breakout room, if somebody would volunteer to be the note taker. Afterwards, we'll all come back to discuss and share, but we might not be able to, of course, to get through every group's answers, and we will be taking those notes and actually compiling them and sharing them with everybody after today's workshop. You will send those notes to us via email through our field email. I will also provide that to the chat as well. But right now, just looking for somebody to volunteer to be a note taker via the worksheets that have been sent to you once you're sent into your breakout sessions. I'm going to send everybody out to the breakout session now. If all else fails, bail out, come back to the main room if you need any assistance, or you can always log out, log back in. And what will happen was you'll get a 5-minute warning to bring everybody back to the main group for us to discuss. So we will see you here shortly. Yes, Samwer? Looks like you.
Just wanted to make sure, folks, if anyone had any questions before we sent them into groups. And there's just a reminder that the sign-in sheet is, or the discussion questions are on that sheet that Sarah mentioned. Thank you.
All right, here we go.
Or if interns are considered the essential employee in the agency, then they might have to work remotely. We also were talking about some different things to like maybe do for interns, to like maybe give them reading to do, or articles or information that you found very interesting or profound in something that you did, and use that as a way to engage and start conversation if you can't be spending that time. If it doesn't have to be right in front of you to read the article and discuss it, you can do that many other ways. And also another great idea was to meet with different people from the agency via like Zoom or by phone, because they might not get the chance to talk to those people face to face right now. So finding a way to make that connection, because like I know in schools it's a whole different dynamic, because being in a school you need to know how the system works. There's a lot to it. So that would be like super important. Then also modules on hygiene, washing hands, proper protocols that we think as given, but it's not a bad idea to reinforce that or spend some time doing that. That's what we came up with.
That's great. Thanks, Kim.
Mm-hmm.
I know Chantelia mentioned one of the modules actually that we're going to have, we'll have some training on actually how to put on a mask even, and how to wash hands, and how to properly put on PPE depending on settings. So we're being mindful that some of that is coming from the CDC website, and others we are part of all of us in a field office in the school are on a listserv of other field directors across North America. And so people have been sharing resources that we will also have available for students and you. Another person from another group, maybe?
Anwar, I just have a question, and maybe I missed this, and I apologize if I did. But with like the modules and that, are any of them focused for like macro students?
Yes, Chantelia mentioned when she was identifying that we really wanted to have a broad range. And so they will encompass research focus, like even basic, how are you a consumer of research, for example, and others that focus on policy and community organizing and leadership opportunities. I don't have the exact titles, but I know Chantelia mentioned a couple of them.
Thank you. Sorry about that. I missed that. I can talk a little bit about our group. It was a mix. We had actually it was mixed. That's the best way I can say it. I can't even remember exactly where everybody else was from. Some school, a woman who's going to be leading a voting, get out and vote. Another woman who is a field instructor at a behavioral outpatient clinic. So needless to say, we all talked about the fact that a lot of it's going to be virtual, a lot. And And so how to make it meaningful for the students. And so talking a little bit more about as we go through it and the students learn that that's all fodder for what this is all about. So the end product is not as much important. And I use my example. I just explained to everybody is that we do an adoptive family program at the end of December, and that's my student's capstone, who's a macro student. They have to design the entire marketing, fundraising, collection, and distribution of all of that. Well, that's going to look extremely different during COVID, and yet I think it's needed more than ever this year. So how the student's going to do it in a virtual environment and still try to maybe be able to collect some type of things, whether it's cards that we then send to clients, but that I care more about the student learning how to do it, and whether or not we help one family or 10, I really don't care. And I had a long conversation with my student around that I care more about learning how do organizations that do this kind of work have to adapt when there's a lot less contact and a lot less ability to do the kinds of things that you think, oh, that can only be done in person. Well, it can't be done in person, so let's be creative here. So I'm really looking forward to using supervision every week to find out, like, you know, what the student has learned, how she's thought to adapt it based on how it's been done in previous years. And that to me is really where it's going to be this year versus more of the outcome. It's going to be more of the process.
Nice. Yeah, really coming out of our place of doing things, right? We're like, this is what we do. Now we have to sort of throw that out the window and start where the client's at, as we say, and really start over again. So I appreciate that. And maybe have another group before we move on to the second breakout.
I can talk. Our group had a field instructor and a school social worker, community mental health, and then a community outreach person, and myself. And I think I'm the one, well, there might have been two of us that were macro. But I'm macro. What we're doing is that because we're essential staff, we're back to work in the office 2 days a week. And so we have, we took the state guidelines and then punched them up a little bit to meet our needs in addition to what they already had. And we are having our students follow the same protocols as our staff. We're supplying them with the same stuff that I supply my staff. So the only thing we haven't decided about our students is whether or not, because of population numbers in the office, whether or not they'll be here 1 day or 2 days a week. But we are doing their orientation in person. We did half Zoom and now we're doing the other half in person, and that will take place this week for our students. Our Wayne State students, as well as students that I take from another university. So we are doing that, and I provide, I was telling them that we ended up getting one of those loans, and part of that money was spent on providing laptops to all of my staff because we weren't prepared to go remotely. And so our staff are in the office 2 days a week and they're working from home the other 3 days a week. So our students will be doing something similar to that. And so we've had to change a lot of things, but as an essential worker and somebody who provides foster care and adoption services, our staff has to go out into the field. And so we have to provide them with, I provide them extra masks and cleaning solutions and everything else, hand sanitizers and sprays and everything to take with them in case the home that they're going to isn't taking them. So that's been our biggest adjustment, and one of the discussions that, you know, we talked about that, because I know that Deborah Plow is part of community, I'm sorry, Deborah, I can't remember all of your thing, but they do outreach, but they've been able to do a lot of televisiting, and we did that in the beginning. We did Zoom and FaceTime and whatever else we could get to the parents and the kids to stay connected, because that's been the biggest and the hardest thing. So
Thanks, Jean.
yeah,
I think Deborah's from Community Network Services, if I remember correctly, but yeah.
yes, thanks, Anwar.
And I will say that Wayne State students are all going to be receiving a bag that will contain, Sarah, help me remember, I know face masks, but some other things.
I think just handouts, information, you know, face masks, hand sanitizer.
T-shirt, I heard.
T-shirt.
Anything else, Chantilly? I can't remember if there was. I think that was it.
No, I think a couple of face masks, hand sanitizer. Yep. And then just some
Kleenex.
goodies to welcome them back to campus.
Right.
Kleenex, wipes, T-shirt, and a mug.
Thank you, Jeffrey. Excellent. Yeah, Jeffrey Jones is our academic advisor for BSW students. Forgot you're on the call, so thank you. And you know, it's one way that students will get an email telling them where they can pick this up, but it's another way for them to connect with Wayne State. Just so you know, all of the student organizations and student activities are also going to be done remotely as well. And this is all the president of the university's attempt to encourage engagement and encourage student participation, but obviously in a format that will keep them safe. All right, so it's 11.
And we're, and my understanding is all of the students have to go through the Warrior Safe training, as well as do daily questionnaires for any day they're at placement.
Yeah, thank you for saying that. Actually, that may be helpful to some of you. So the university has had a group of individuals with different committees working all summer to think of how we are. It's called a Restart Committee, and there's a whole website that's committed to this that has information about safety and how classes will be organized, and if you're on campus, what needs to happen. One of those, as Don mentioned, is that everyone, and we've done this too, it has to take a course. Basically, it's like a self-paced course to learn more about COVID and to learn ways of practice, you know, using safe practices when you're in the building or when you're communicating with other individuals if you're on campus. So, and you have to pass that. There are actually questions that are attached to it and you have to pass. And then once you pass, you get an email. So if you decide you want your students to take that course, they can take it and show you the email they get saying that they have successfully completed that course. And then the daily screening that students and faculty and staff have to take. So I'm going into the office this afternoon to take care of some mail. And in order for me to be able to have gone into the office, I went through and I did the screener, the daily screener, which basically asks me if I am experiencing any of the symptoms associated with COVID, if I've been around anyone, or if I've tested. And after I answer those, and it gives me, sends me an email clearing me to be on campus. If I answer something that is of concern, it does go to the University Campus Health Center, and they then respond to individuals and give feedback on what needs to happen if we need to follow up with testing or just need to quarantine or anything else. And that's one way of the university's efforts to make sure that folks come on campus in a safe format. So thank you for reminding me of that. Yes.
That's the same daily check symptom that DPSCD does, self-check, and then you go through those steps and then it sends you back an email to clear, you're cleared to work for the day. In addition to.
Right. And I think a lot of organizations probably have something similar. So someone just asked, can we have access to the COVID training? And it looks like Chantilia just sent that to everybody. So absolutely. Thank you, Chantilia. If you want a copy of the daily screener, students get an email that says they've been cleared. So they can just forward that email to you if you like, if you need them to show that to you. So, all right. So to give us time to answer the next questions and so that we can get you out of here in time. So breakout session 2 focuses more on supervision. So in a little bit, Sarah's gonna send all of us back into groups, and I'm gonna read the questions, although many of you have the worksheets. And I heard someone say that they couldn't do bullet points. If you wanna send your feedback, I mean, if you wanna use this form, you certainly can. If you prefer to just put it in an email, that's okay too. It doesn't have to be this form. Whatever's easiest for you is what we're all about. But here are the 2 questions we hope you can kind of talk about in the next breakout. The first question is, how will you coordinate supervision for social work student interns? Will it be individual? Will it be group? What ideas can you share to engage students and to be prepared for supervision? Will you use agendas? So this is all around supervision. What do you think will work? What will you do? And then the second question is, how will you use administrative and reflective supervision? We sent you a sheet, and I want to give a plug to Cindy Leitz, who's I think she's the Dean of University of Arizona now because she was just promoted, but we hired her to work with us and with Wayne County Department of Health and Human Services, and she did a wonderful 2-day training on supervision working in child welfare. So I adapted her material, and that's what we sent you, is information about the difference between reflective and administrative supervision. And there's a room and a place for both of those, but important to really distinguish between what reflective and what administrative supervision is. And so I think it's a 4-page document that Diane sent you. We can include it on here as well, but we want you to think about using administrative and reflective supervision, using remote learning, and how to engage student learning in this way.
There is our group is a little bit of a mixture of both. Of some people are doing face-to-face and others will be doing on the I'm sorry everyone.
That's okay, he can come on.
A minute, I'm going to talk and then I'll be there, okay? The safety for like a macro student who is like doing going to virtual town meetings and meeting individual with the like a team of task supervisor, and students, so kind of like a triad. A lot of people will be doing a combination of both face-to-face and remote. The idea of the beginning will be mostly like regarding administration supervision, especially in the beginning with trainings, and then reflective supervision, doing individual and group. They do, one of the individuals in our group does like a clinical team meeting where they present cases and then they go, they have like each student takes an objective and works with that client on the objectives, and then they come back and they present to the group regarding that. She also has a whole spreadsheet that she uses so she knows who presented and things like that. So it actually helped. She says this virtual group supervision has helped her become more organized behind the scenes without being able to be seen. So
Nice.
Gives a little.
I love it. Yeah. Gives everybody a chance to be involved and to give their perspective, which is a great way to engage a group instead of just having one person. That's great. Yeah. Thanks, Catherine. Another group?
I can go ahead and share. I was in room 11. We talked about really appreciating in-person supervision with students, and you know, really being able to appreciate just all of the communication that you get from being in the same room, with seeing a person's face, with seeing their body movements, while also needing to recognize that, you know, safety has to be a priority at this time. So ideally, hi Christy, ideally we would we'd really like to have some sort of combination of in-person and online, either through like Zoom or Teams supervision with our students. We talked about doing group supervision when having more than one intern, and then doing individual supervision as needed as well, based on if the student needs it and if we feel that we need it. We talked a lot about this need to be kind of flexible and creative during this time, and looking at, while there's so many layers to our decision right now on how we do supervision, that there's a lot of layers that go into our students' lives as well. We talked about some factors, you know, including, you know, having children who maybe don't have childcare right now, and or children who should be starting school in a couple weeks and who won't be. And so we need to be thinking about our own needs, our family needs, and our students' needs. So I like that. I've seen a few people here in the call. You can see they've got little ones trying to get their mama's attention, and others, sitting on their laps. And so there's just this real need to be flexible and creative in how we manage supervision. We also had talked about, this kind of goes with supervision, is that when we're all in an in-person environment, we learned a lot about our coworkers and our students, just from like chit chats in the office, grabbing coffee in the kitchen. You found out things about people, like that their dad just died, or other stressors that they have going on in their lives. And well, we don't have a lot of that chit chat that we had before, that we don't know so often about those other factors that are affecting a person's life. And so we did want to recommend maybe a module on loss and grieving, especially during this time, because it's such a unique thing. And yeah, and again, we just talked about with scheduling supervision, about being able to coordinate around, childcare and other personal responsibilities that both we have and our students have.
Thank you.
That's it. Thank you, everybody.
That was great. Thank you. We'll take maybe one more, and then we'll start to round out the morning. One more.
I can speak for group 12. So initially we had been talking about coordinating supervision. I think most of us in our group were only having, one student, maybe two. So trying to schedule a time for supervision that would work for, ideally all students. So if that's one, if that's a group, trying to find times when the schedule would overlap enough to accommodate everyone. Some of us were in favor of kind of a tentative agenda that would guide the conversation, but really largely allowing students to self-guide the supervision based on their own questions, their concerns, maybe some case conferences if that's appropriate. And I think most of us were talking about trying to find a way to do that on a virtual platform. So whether that's, Zoom or whatever your agency is, has allowed for privacy-wise. And then for the second part of the breakout session, what sort of supervision activities are we looking to incorporate? I think our group came up with some really good examples. So one member of our group was talking about assigning reflective exercises for students to kind of like take with them and complete and submit via email. So, open-ended questions that have to do with whatever the topic of supervision had been, that then the student can take and reflect further on in their own time. Providing your student with some journal articles to read and summarize and then discuss in supervision in terms of how those are applicable to whatever practice they are doing within your agency. One of our group members mentioned asking student interns to put together presentations of best practices for staff at their agency based on current research. So allowing your student to kind of like fulfill some of the more organizational core competencies as part of their learning agreement by providing something really meaningful to the agency. And then kind of along that same line, there was another person in our group who mentioned that their agency has students create kind of summary packets of current literature and research and journal articles that would then be available to the clinicians at their practice. So it's a way for the clinicians at the practice to remain really up to date on, what current standards and best practices are, while also allowing students to create something and engage with that learning themselves.
Excellent. Thank you, Carolyn. That was great.
Great.
So a couple of things that stood out as I'm hearing you talk about this, and as you were talking, someone asked a couple of questions, and I guess I want to I want to frame up my response and say that supervision is probably one of the most, if not the most important aspects of students learning when they're in field, right? Because it is the place that forces students to bring issues to the table, and it differentiates a volunteer experience from a field placement experience. You know, I tell students when they go into agencies, they're not volunteers and they're not employees, right? They are student interns. And so it's an educational experience. And if I were to select one key aspect of the student intern experience, I would say it would be the supervision that really differentiates those roles. And so we have students that are doing their placement where they work. Of course, it has to be separate and different in a different area. But what differentiates it is that one is an educational experience, and students are able to be students, and they're treated like students. They're given the freedom to be students, and they learn. You know, they have that safety net of being a student. So when issues come up, they make mistakes, then it's dealt with in that supportive educational way so that students can learn from these experiences. So I can't stress enough the importance of having that. And I do think there is definitely room and a time to do administrative supervision and a time to do reflective supervision. I think there are times when we become busy that you know, people tend to sort of, we take care of the business, the administrative part, we sort of take them off. But there is a time, I think, and you want to think about the best way to do this. Someone asked if process recordings are going to be due. Yes, we're requiring process recordings. And because things may change, what are some ways that can be creative in the ways that students use, you know, so they can definitely process a supervisory session. They can process a module. They can process the simulation. They can process interactions they have with someone within the organization in a Zoom meeting or a project that they're working on. So think about that and think about being creative in the way that you encourage students to process. And I always tell students to select things that are tension filled. That's where they learn. Don't select something to process that you think you were wonderful at, because you're going to just write a process recording where you say, I felt great about this and I did this. But select those things that challenge you, is what I say to them, so that then you can take that back to the field instructor, to you guys, and discuss those, and for the students to really learn and grow from. So let me step back. It's almost noon.
Anwar, did you already mention about sites starting early?
Oh, I will do that. Before we get to that, because I want to do some last minute kind of housekeeping. So you might have to remind me if I forget, but I think our colleagues have been answering questions, but are there any questions that were asked, either Chantilly or Sarah, you want to say out loud and answer for everybody else, or if anyone has a question before we close out? You're muted, Sarah.
You'd address the question about process recordings.
Okay, good. So it's 12 o'clock. I know we said we'd finish at 12:30, but we realize that we're only giving you 2.5 CE, which really means that we should have ended at 12. I'm not quite sure how that happened, but it did. So you'll be happy to know we'll end a little bit early. So that's always a good thing. Christy was reminding me, some folks had asked about hours, and I do want to say that the Council on Social Work Education did extend the decrease in hours by 15%. So for fall and winter, students will be required to do about 191 hours or 203, I think. It's a little bit longer for BSWs, but and Diane is going to be sending out information to all of you about that, but it's roughly 191 hours each semester, which comes out to about 13 hours a week as opposed to 16 hours a week. Now, some students that are doing the 3-day placement, that's a little bit different, because if they're adding an additional 2 credits, that is an elective. So the percentage, 15% off of hours, does only counts for the minimum requirement of field, which is what most students end up doing. So it's 191 hours if they're doing a 2-day placement, which is a decrease from the regular 225 or 230, which is what students would typically do $225 for MSW, $230 for BSW. If the 3-day placement is only for students that are in the MSW advanced year, if a student is doing that, their hours come out to about 304 hours for those students. So we'll put this, Diane is creating a newsletter for students and a newsletter for faculty field instructors. So we'll include that information in the newsletter, and we'll send that out to you. In addition to that information, she'll include the dates. So when field begins and when it will end, and the deadline dates for the learning plan, the process recordings, or praxis for macro students, and then the midterm and final evaluation. And while I'm on the praxis, I will say for those of you that take macro students, this year we have updated the praxis. We got a lot of feedback from you and students that it was cumbersome and repetitive. So we have streamlined it, and we hope that it's going to be easier for students to complete this year, both for the students and for the field instructors.
I'm sending you kisses. I'm sending you kisses, Anwar.
Happy to oblige. Very good. So take a look and give us feedback, because we're happy to change things. If it still needs changes, we're certainly willing to do that. Some of you have also asked if students can start early. Yes. So some of you have already had students go through HR and onboarding. It's totally fine for them to begin field right now and start to clock hours. We are asking students not to stop going to field if they accrue their hours, right? Some of you wanted to do this because there was a concern about what if we have another stay-at-home order. I'd rather students have experiences now in the summer. So yes, they can begin, but the last day of field is, what is it, Diane? December, I think 14th or 11th, something like that. They need to stay until the last day of field, even if their hours are achieved. So if the last day of field is it the 11th?
I think it's the 11th.
I think so too. So up until the 11th, all the hours they put in will count for fall. Anything they put after the 11th will count towards the winter semester. But if they want to start early, just in case, well, for lots of different reasons, they can do that. Please have them keep track of their hours, and you can keep track. Diane will be putting up the time log probably in the next week or two, and then they can start adding their hours to the time log so that they can keep track of those.
Can students work 16 hours if the time is available to them at the agency?
Sure. Like I said, we're asking students to be flexible during this period, so we have to be flexible. For asking all of you to be flexible. So there may be times if students are able to put in 16 hours and then maybe another week, because of various circumstances, they're not able to do that. What we don't want to do, and this is going to need your support, is to make sure that students communicate with you, right? We don't want students just to say, oh, well, I'm not going to go on this day, or I'm not going to go that day. You need to know when they're going to be there so that you can organize the assignments and the work that you've assigned to them. So make sure that you have that conversation, and you have a schedule. If you need to adjust the schedule, make sure that you do it with the students so that expectations are clear for the students, so there aren't any misunderstandings. As soon as we get closer to the fall, we'll upload the learning plan. You can start working on that, the time log, and the first process recording. And then of course, we'll add the other assignments as we get closer to those dates.
Can we make sure to send praxis for BSW students and macro placements early?
So we need to know who those are. So if you can send an email to the field education email to say the student, and remember, we don't give those students all praxis. As we've done in the past, we've kind of done half and half, just because we want students who are BSWs or first year to know how to do a process recording, and there are some differences between a process recording and praxis. So it'd be good for them to do some, maybe 2 and 3 of the other. So if you can send an email, right, Diane? And then
Yes.
you keep track.
Yep, send me an email and then I can mark it.
What we have,
Oh, you muted yourself. Oh. Okay. Any other questions, Sarah, that we didn't get to?
We had some question about Canadian students, I did share that the vast majority of our Canadian students have been referred to Canadian placements in the event if there is, currently there is, but also in the future. So those students won't hopefully be impacted.
We were concerned because of policy, unfortunately, that we didn't want students to get stuck. So we did our best to try to place students in Canada just so that they wouldn't be at a disadvantage. All right.
And then always, if anybody wants a student, I'm still looking for a student. Would love to hear from you.
Excuse me, Sarah?
Yes.
This is Jessica Warfield. I have put a comment in there. So I have not received any students or any information. I'm with the American Red Cross. We definitely have availability for virtual learning opportunities. So
excellent. And if others of you have those and you don't want to say it out loud, that's okay. Send an email to either Sarah or the field, because we still have some students for various reasons who still need placement. And so we will look and see if we have students that are going to be a good match for you. And we'll kind of go from there. Diane is also going to send all of you, although I saw that Sarah included, there was a link to the evaluation for this event. Please take time to, it's not a long evaluation, but it gives us an idea of what worked and what didn't work, right? This is all new for us. And our hope is that this was helpful to you, but maybe you have some ideas of what worked well and maybe what didn't work so well. And so we can be mindful and see if we can find other ways of getting information to you. But we'll send you the link to that evaluation. And then Diane will also be working, probably this won't happen this week. So give her some time, maybe either next week, the end of next week, where she will work on sending you the CE certificate for this event so that you have it for your record. And keep track of those, because we're all getting them electronically. Like, I don't have a printer at home, so I'm creating folders to keep track of things. And so students are learning how to do that as well. So I think I want to see if my colleagues have anything else that I've forgotten to share or announce, besides giving our undying gratitude and thanks to all of you for your wonderful work and support of our students. Anything? Chantilly, any last minute? Sarah, Grace, Michaela, Diane? Okay. All right. Well, it's almost 10 after. Sarah submitted or reposted the link to the Qualtrics survey. Again, on the survey, it asked you to give us ideas about other things. So we do read those, and we coordinate our trainings based on those. So thank you all very, very much for being here. Stay safe and healthy. And we hope to see you, if not like this, face-to-face on campus sometime soon. It will happen. I feel confident that this will be behind us, and we'll talk about COVID as a memory not too long from now, I hope. Take good care, everyone. Have a great day.
Thanks. You all do the same.